What's up, guys? It's Kayla Bundy, and this is the Finding Hope podcast. All right, the Q&A segment for this week. Our question comes from Annika RHD, and she said, "What is your relationship with regret like? How do you deal with it?" Such a good question, first of all. I would say I have a pretty decent relationship with regret. My outlook on it is, if I'm having the same things happen over and over and I'm constantly regretful, then I feel like that's where I feel a lot of shame or guilt or just really disappointed in myself. But I feel like I've learned over the years that if I feel this regretful feeling, then that's usually a sign that I need to make a change and do something different. And what's helped me a lot is when I've made those changes, that's kind of me being able to surrender that regret and not feel that way because I've made that change. And had I not done that in the first place, I never would have known that I needed to make that change in my life or in my heart. I feel like God has always turned my bad choices into something good and beautiful. And I definitely never would want to repeat those choices. And so the way I feel like I view regret is, okay, if I'm not repeating these choices and I've asked for forgiveness, then that's something that I need to forgive in myself as well. But if I am repeating these things, then that's where I feel like there's just this unsettling battle kind of going on in my mind. So yeah, I do think though, there can be so much beauty in the things that we might regret in life. And not that we need to keep walking down that path that's leading us to regret, but God can always use our mistakes or use the things that we regret ever walking through or doing for the good of our lives. Okay, so actually that question kind of ties in with today's topic a little bit. But I cannot wait to talk about this. I literally, oh my gosh, this topic peeves me so much. I'm so passionate about it. I definitely am wanting to have a lot of conversations with people about this topic because I just think it's so important. So today we are going to be talking about cancel culture. And not only cancel culture, but when to remove people from your life. Because those two things kind of go hand in hand. And if you are up to date on what has been happening to influential people this past year, then you have definitely heard of the term cancel culture. And if you haven't, don't worry, you're not missing out on anything, but I'm going to catch you up to date on cancel culture and what it is. So on the surface level, cancel culture most likely won't have a direct effect on our lives. When we see people getting canceled for things that they never should have done or things that they have said 10 years ago or are doing right now, in the grand scheme of things, we can seem so far removed and completely unaffected. It's so easy not to care or pay attention to the mindset behind cancel culture. But if you've ever lost a friend because of something you did or said, or you lose respect after messing up, or you feel judged even, then you are most likely experiencing the after effects of cancel culture and how it is on a deeper level, if we get through the surface, really corrupting our hearts and minds. In LA especially, there's this massive push to be your best self at all times. And that means whatever doesn't bring out your best self at all times needs to be removed from your life. Essentially, there's like this unspoken belief that knowing and living out your self-worth means not letting anyone or anything treat you less than your value. And I want to say that just like so many things, this is a great way to live. Like, you should know your worth. You should know what you deserve. You should have boundaries. You should never be treated in a way that you don't deserve and you know are so much better. In no way am I saying or supporting the idea of being so selfless in a way where it's taking away from you, and you aren't living the life you were called to live, and you aren't being treated in the ways that you were called to be treated. Of course, you should know your worth and not accept less than that, and guard your heart so that you are setting yourself up for greatness in all things, 100%. But where this extreme mindset can be dangerous is it leaves us becoming so judgmental of the people around us and feeling personally attacked or drained. Cancel culture has completely removed the beautiful actions of putting yourself in someone else's shoes and understanding where they are coming from. Most of the time when people do things that hurt us or seem careless, that's probably when they need you the most and they need that support. And trust me, I'm not a believer in taking on other people's issues or stuff in any way. There is a very big difference of owning up to what is yours and for you to work on, and not taking on what's other people's and what other people have to work on. However, I think you can definitely not take on somebody's issues or problems or struggles that they're going through, but still be there to support, encourage, love, and help them along the way. And I think it's honestly such an essential part of friendship or relationships in general to be there to walk with someone when they aren't at their best or when they aren't adding to your life 24/7, and still love them and want to be there for them. I just think that, yes, of course you want to surround yourself with great people. Of course you want to be in a job where you're treated well. Of course you don't want to accept things that are taking away from who you are and your life and all the good that is in store for you. 100%. But I feel like with this cancel culture mindset, we are so quick to judge the second someone we love and care about messes up, does something that we aren't okay with, mistreats us. Just the smallest things to the biggest things. When there is bumps in relationships nowadays, there's such a push to just, oh, they're toxic. Like they shouldn't be in your life. And we are naming so many things as toxic, when in reality, we're just all imperfect. We're all human. We are all seeing life and situations and acting on things from our own lens of what we're used to, what we think is normal, what we've grown up with. And yes, of course, there can be toxicity in that for sure. But I personally believe we are way too quick to name what's toxic, what's unhealthy, what needs to be out of our lives before we take a step back and actually think about the person and putting ourselves in their shoes. I find it so beautiful and so comforting knowing I have a safe space of people that have been there through the good times, through the hard times, who haven't tried to take my problems as their own or felt drained, but have loved me, encouraged me, reminded me who I am, and not just judged me and written me off. Or maybe they don't write me off, but I know what it feels like to feel that judgment from a friend or to feel that judgment from a family member or boyfriend, and it sucks. And you definitely don't feel called to be a better version of yourself, and you don't feel like you even have space to grow and be a better version of yourself when you can sense just this weight and this cloud of judgment. And for me personally, I look at things as either a pattern or as an incident. And if there is a pattern of hurt, toxicity, distrust, emotional or mental exhaustion, then yes, you deserve so much more, and you do not need to let those emotions continue to drag you down and take away from the fullness of life that you should be living. But incidences are normal, and for me, they're very forgivable. if a friend talks bad about me or bails or hurts my heart, or at one point in our relationship breaks trust, and these things aren't repeated, but they've happened maybe once or twice, that person is definitely worthy and deserves the respect for me to communicate or be able to forgive that. The way I see it is we are all imperfect, like I said, and all have our own traumas or struggles that we view our life through different lenses. So miscommunication, mess ups, regrets are normal. And what is most important to me is how they are handled when there's bumps, and if they are talked about, how that person is going to respond, not just with words, but with actions as well. And also, if you feel like you are the person being hurt, ask yourself if you're communicating honestly with them and setting those boundaries. Because sometimes our friends or family might continuously cross our boundaries or just disappoint us in general time after time because they don't even know we're bothered by what they're doing or saying. And I'm such a believer in everything is a two-way street. Yes, it is on me to pick the people that are supporters of my life. It's on me to be just as supportive to them. It's on me to recognize who's a good friend. It's on me to be a good friend. But also, just like it's not okay when people hurt you, mistreat you, speak about you in a certain way, it's also not okay for me if I never communicate that that's bothering me. Because if these things keep happening and they are patterns, it's easy for me to say, oh, they're unhealthy for my life, I need to write them off. Instead of saying, wait, have I actually talked to them about this? Or do they even know that this is bothering me? Because it's really easy to get in our head and just assume, well, of course they should know that that's bothering me. Of course they would know that that's hurtful. Of course they would know that's not okay. I shouldn't have to tell them that. It's so easy to live in that mindset of I shouldn't have to tell them. They should know. I shouldn't have to tell them. They should know. And I've been in relationships like that. I have been in friendships like that. I have been on both sides. And I can tell you that when people don't communicate with me and they expect that I should know all these things, it is exhausting for me because then I'm constantly disappointing. I don't know how I'm disappointing. I don't know where I need to improve. I don't know how to love them better because they're not telling me how to love them better. They're just assuming I should know. And so all of these things just get built up. And then I've also been on the other end where I've been that person that's not telling them, or I've been that person that's getting frustrated, getting hurt, getting disappointed, and I'm not communicating, hey, these things actually bother me and I value our friendship, and that's why I'm going to talk to you about these things because I don't want this to create all these bumps in our friendship or relationship that are eventually just going to pile up. So I'm such a big believer in communication. Confrontation for me is the hardest thing. If you know me at all, you know that I will do almost anything to avoid confrontation. Not will. I shouldn't say will, because that's previous me. This last few months, I have been so out of my comfort zone, but really trying to communicate everything. And it has honestly been so helpful. And no, it doesn't always go well. And I learn from that. And sometimes that's on me and the way I communicated. Or I learned that, okay, yeah, maybe that person shouldn't be in my life. Because even if that's not a pattern and that was just an incident, the way they respond is so important to me. And if they respond in a way that's just as hurtful, or they respond in a way that's dismissive of what I'm saying and how I feel, then those are things that you should be aware of and be mindful of. But I just cannot for the life of me get behind cancel culture. I think it is honestly the most judgmental thing, and our whole world is constantly getting mad at people for judging one another and for being judgmental and judging what's right or wrong, judging that person for who they like, what they believe, what they do, who they're voting for. We are so against this judgmental mindset, but that's literally what cancel culture is. Cancel culture is judging somebody based on something they've done or are doing with no grace. And to me, that is just one of the most selfish things you can do, because in reality, what that's doing is putting all of that focus on yourself. In no way are you putting yourself in somebody else's shoes the second you're judging them and willing to dismiss them. I just find that it is so destructive and isolating. And isolating in the sense that you feel so alone when there isn't trust or confidence in relationships, that if you mess up or you're walking through a hard season, you won't have the support from the people you love most. Essentially, it's like having a bunch of friendships or relationships in your life where you are walking on eggshells. And when it's good, it's great. But when it's bad, there's this deep fear behind how it's going to go down. You should feel safe in whatever relationship you have with people in your life. And you should definitely be a safe place and a safe friend for them as well. Your friends should never have to question how you'd respond or be scared of what you might say or do if they've messed up. And you shouldn't have to question that from them either. The people that I feel the safest with in my life are the people that I know through and through. They know my heart. They know my intentions. They know so specifically who I am. And I think that's honestly a big part of what's missing nowadays, is nobody really knows who the other person is. But the people that I know me so well and know my core when I do things that I'm not proud of, when I do things that weren't okay. I know that that person isn't saying that's who she is. They're saying to themselves, something's not okay with her because I know her and that's so out of character for her and she needs somebody right now. Those are the type of friendships you should have, and those are the type of friends you should be. I know my friends, and I can tell when things are off, when they're doing things that I'm like, that is just so wrong. That's not okay. Like, I know that is not them. I know what they do and the hurtful things they say or do, that is not them. And something's going on, and they need to be reminded of that 100%, that, hey, that's not who you are. And you're so much better than this. And I know you're better than this. And you were called for so much more than this. And are you okay? Because this is so out of character for you. And sometimes in those times, you do need space from friendships. You do need space from relationships. And I know when I've been walking through really hard times in my life, I do know that I need space from my friends, and I know they need space from me because I need to figure my stuff out. And sometimes it is unhealthy for me to figure it out being so close with people. Sometimes I do need to be able to get through things on my own, but still knowing that they're there and they're going to love me through it and they're going to be patient with me through it. So I want to leave you with some practical tips to build a safe community and know when to step away from relationships, but also learn and know how to have this cancel culture judgmental mindset not be so rooted in our hearts and minds in the way that society is pushing it on us so heavily. So number one, if you are hurt by something, talk about it and assess from there if the problem persists, where you need to have boundaries. Essentially, if there's a bump, talk to that person about it. And if those bumps keep happening, then assess, okay, I need to have some boundaries in my life and in this friendship, and I can either communicate those boundaries or I can just step away and know that that's okay. Because you should not ever let yourself keep being hurt by the same things time after time. Number two, before removing somebody or distancing yourself, ask yourself if it's a pattern or an incident. Number three, self-reflect if you are a safe space for your friends and if you would still love and support them if they are doing something you don't believe is okay and they've lost your trust, etc. To have good friends, you have to be a good friend. Try to put yourself in that same position or in a different scenario and say, hey, if I were to do this to my friend, how would I want them to respond to me? Because I know personally when I've done that, I can see like, okay, yeah, if I was doing this to my friends, I would really appreciate them being forgiving and understanding and pushing me to be a better version of myself. Number 4, if the relationships are toxic and it's a pattern, that is a clear sign to distance yourself. Toxic relationships, friendships are the worst. They're exhausting. They take your mind away from every aspect of your life without you even realizing it. If you are questioning if it's toxic, it most likely is. And if you are seeing that, okay, these things are patterns, then yes, that is a very good, clear sign to remove yourself, distance yourself. There's still a difference of canceling them versus setting those boundaries to protect yourself, not to punish them, but to just genuinely protect yourself. Number 5, life has its ups and downs, and so does friendship. So please be realistic and give grace to grow. For our world to get better, for our friendships to get better, for our relationships to get better, for us to get better as human beings, there has to be room to grow. And the last thing is self-reflect and notice if you are thinking these judgmental things, viewing this person in a different way that's not who they are. And even if you're not communicating that to them, think about if you're thinking and feeling those things, because even if you haven't told that person probably feels that judgment. That person probably feels that way. And like I've said, when I've been in friendships, relationships where I can tell this person is coming in already disappointed, already judging me, I already don't feel safe with them, I really honestly don't feel like I have any room to be a better version of myself. Even though I might know I can be a better version of myself in that specific friendship or relationship, it is so hard when there's already all this judgment and this disappointment to try to get past that and work past that. So just ask yourself, like, am I projecting all this judgment and this disappointment on the person that I care about and love? Because if you are, I guarantee they can sense that. And I would just have a conversation and be honest and say, hey, yeah, like, I'm disappointed about these things, or I know you're better than this, and encourage them. Give them that space for them to grow and to learn and to know, hey, you're going to be there. And not that you should self-sacrifice in a way that's draining you at all. That's not what I'm saying. But know that in friendships, in relationships, for these things to last, you're gonna have ups and downs, and it's how you work through them. And living in this idea of, if you're not adding it to my life 24/7, and if you're not elevating me, and if you're not, if you're on a different wavelength than I am, and I'm so much better than you in these things, and you're bringing me down, that's really, in my opinion, an unrealistic view on relationships and friendships and work-life balance and every single thing, because you're not always going to be the best version of yourself 24/7. And the other person is not going to be the best version of themselves 24/7. And to expect that from people and to not have grace or forgiveness during that, it's just so isolating, honestly. So I hope that this conversation just opened up your mind to maybe things that you hadn't thought about with cancel culture and how much it can actually affect our lives, even though it feels so distant and so far from our circle and our world, when it's these super popular people or influential people that are experiencing it so heavily. But in reality, it does affect the way we think and the way we're treated ourselves and the way we're treating others. So I hope these tips help you to build an incredible community, a safe community, one where you can flourish and everyone in it can flourish as well, because that is literally such a peaceful place to be and such a secure place for your heart and your mind. I love you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, check this out on YouTube. leave me a review, and share this with your friends, share this with your family, share this with whoever you think would benefit from it in any way, shape, or form. Because I just think this conversation is so important. And Pixie is waking up from her nap. Say hi, baby girl. Okay, we love you guys, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.